Good day, everyone. We're going to be starting off with chapter 5. And I actually wrote some notes for you guys. So, just to clarify, I hope you can read this. Theories of knowledge Steiner's talking about. He's talking about critical idealism, and so far he's mentioned naive realism. And he hasn't gotten too much into naive realism, but these are theories of knowledge. So when we talk about critical idealism and naive realism, that's what we're talking about, theories of knowledge. And for those of you who are wondering, just to clarify, what is a theory of knowledge? And there we go. A theory of knowledge equals the science of knowing. So Steiner here is presenting, his whole book is about the science of knowing. So and he's presenting a theory of knowledge on how we know the world. So that was a little note for you guys. So we're going to start off with chapter 5, and it's called The Act of Knowing the World. So I'm going to start with paragraph 1. From the foregoing considerations, it follows that it is impossible to prove by investigating the content of our observation that our percepts are mental pictures. Such proof is supposed to be established by showing that if the process of perceiving takes place in the way in which, on the basis of naive realistic assumptions about our psychological and physiological constitution, then imagine that it does, then we have to do not with things in themselves, but only with our mental pictures of things. Now, if naive realism, when consistently thought out, leads to results which directly contradict its presuppositions, then these presuppositions must be discarded as unsuitable for the foundation of a universal philosophy. In any case, it is not permissible to reject the presuppositions and yet accept the consequences, as the critical idealist does when he bases his assertion that the world is my mental picture on the line of argument already described. Edward von Hartmann gives a full account of this line of argument in his work Das Grundproblem der Erkenntnis, whatever, I can't pronounce that, that's German. I'm English, I'm Canadian, so I can't pronounce German well. So the summary we have for paragraph 1 is, we cannot prove our percepts, our mental pictures, by investigating the content of our observations. I'm going to read the summary again for paragraph 1. It's, we cannot prove our percepts, our mental pictures, by investigating the content of our observations. So he's just saying that we can't prove that our percepts are mental pictures, which he stated in the beginning. So that's pretty straightforward there. I'm going to move on to paragraph 2. The truth of critical idealism is one thing, the force of its proof another. How it stands with the former will appear later on in the course of this book, but the force of its proof is exactly nil. If one builds a house and the ground floor collapses while the first floor is being built, then the first floor collapses also. Naive realism and critical idealism is related as ground floor to the first floor in this simile. Summary for that is, naive realism and critical idealism both collapse because critical idealism is built on naive realism. So again, he's saying critical idealism doesn't work as a theory of knowledge because, as he mentioned, everything is being perceived, and your mental picture of the eye starts with an observation. So basically it collapses because observation is really the first pillar of knowledge, and critical idealism doesn't accept that. So that's what he's saying in 2. So these beginning of this chapter so far is just sort of repeating the ideas he was talking about in chapter 4. So I don't need to spend too much time on that. Paragraph 3. For someone who believes that the whole perceived world is only an imagined one, a mental picture, and is in fact the effect upon my soul of things unknown to me, the real problem of knowledge is naturally concerned not with the mental pictures present only in the soul, but with the things which are independent of us and which lie outside our consciousness. He asks, how much can we learn about these things indirectly, seeing that we cannot observe them directly? From this point of view, he is concerned not with the interconnection of his conscious percepts with one another, but with their causes, which transcend his consciousness and exist independently of him, since the percepts, in his opinion, disappear as soon as he turns his senses away from things. Our consciousness, on this view, works like a mirror from which the pictures of definite things disappear the moment its reflecting surface is not turned toward them. If now we do not see the things themselves, but only their reflections, then we must learn indirectly about the nature of things by drawing conclusions from the behavior of the reflections. Modern science takes this attitude in that it uses percepts only as a last resort in obtaining information about the processes of matter which lie behind them, and which alone really are. If the philosopher, as critical idealist, admits real existence at all, then his search for knowledge through the medium of mental pictures is directed solely towards this existence. His interest skips over the subjective world of mental pictures and goes straight for what produces these pictures. And we have the summary for 3. There's 2 of them. The things which lie independent of us and lie outside our consciousness cannot be observed directly. These pictures disappear the moment their reflecting consciousness surface is not turned towards them. The critical idealist admits real existence at all and skips over the subjective world of mental pictures to go straight for what produces these pictures. And the second version that we have is, since the things which are independent of us are inaccessible to our direct observation, how much can we know of them indirectly? In the critical idealist's search for knowledge, their interest skips over the subjective world of mental pictures and directs itself to the material processes that produce them. Okay, so in paragraph 3, Steiner is talking about critical idealism some more. Okay, so for the critical idealists, they believe that the perceived world is only just a mental picture. And so for them, the problem of knowledge is not with the mental pictures that they perceive, but with the things that lie outside of them and outside of their consciousness. So they believe that because of this, we cannot perceive things directly. We perceive things indirectly. And so he is concerned with he is not concerned with the connection of his conscious percepts, but with their causes that transcend his consciousness. And because he believes that as soon as he stops perceiving the percepts, they disappear as soon as he turns his senses away. So basically it just says, for the critical idealist, our consciousness is like a mirror. And once we don't perceive something anymore, it disappears. If Steiner points out that if a critical idealist admits real existence at all, meaning the world of percepts, then his search for knowledge through mental pictures, because what a critical idealist does is uses mental pictures as his search for knowledge, then he'll have to bypass this whole realm of mental picture and go straight to what produces these mental pictures, which would be the world of percepts. So again, it's kind of showing the redundancy and the flaws of critical idealism. So that's all I'm going to cover for today. And I look forward to seeing you guys again next time. Bye.